Sorava. It's been a minute, YouTube. And it is Nibortishan. Go by many names, of course. Many people respectfully refer to me as Tata. As many other Tatas in the community are also respectfully referred to as Tata as well. Wanted to talk to y'all today about a few topics. Well, this first topic that we want to talk about is why is it beneficial? Why is it beneficial to work with a Babalawo who is skilled in black magic, particularly Palomayombe, particularly Kimbanda, and even some of the voodoo aspects of black magic as well, or witchcraft. Why is it beneficial to work with a Babalawo who's skilled in these other traditions versus just working with a traditional Babalawo who only knows Ifa? Not to say that there's not black magic or Ifa or witchcraft in Ifa, because there is. But most people try to stay away from that sort of thing. And a lot of people don't want to divulge in that type of information, and pretty much try to keep people in the realms of doing readings and Ebo. But a lot of times what happens when you go to a Babalawo, right? And let's say, for instance, you go to a Babalawo, and in your Odu that falls for your Idafa, right? It says that you have people doing witchcraft on you, right? Immediately you're going to think that the people that are doing witchcraft on you are adherents to the tradition of Ifa. You're going to think, well, I'm only around Ifa people, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to assume that, okay, all I got to do is make the Ebo, and then all of the negativity is going to go away. What ends up happening is you make the Ebo, and although some negativity does go away, you can't catch it. In most cases, you can. When you're dealing with amateurs who are in black magic and practice black magic, then yeah, you do the Ebo, the negativity goes away. But then again, you have those instances where you're dealing with professional black magicians like myself who have a way to work around what you may be doing in Ifa. We have ways that we can sabotage an Ebo. We have ways that we can sabotage an Odu. There's things that you could do so that every time a person makes a Ebo, something happens. Or the opposite of what they pray for may manifest. And I'm trying not to give away too many secrets, but I want to make you understand the importance of why sometimes it's good to go to a well-rounded spiritualist who may be also a Babalawo, a Tata, or a Boko, or whatever. You know what I mean? Whatever type of sorcery or magic or witchcraft that they practice, as well as Ifa. It's always good to do the Ebo. There have been instances where I knew where the witchcraft was coming from in my case. And I'm like, I go get a reading, and then, in the reading, in the Ifa reading, they're telling me, oh, this person wants you to die. This person wants this to happen. In my mind, I'm thinking, as a black magician, I'm like, oh, they must be sending death spells at me. Probably with Palo or something like that, or Obia, or, voodoo or something. They sending death spells. And yeah, I can make the Ebo, But as a professional, I can go home, go back to my own temple of black magic and merely clean it off. You know what I mean? So it's like it's not something that I feel like I always have to make Ebo for. Okay. Now, to a traditionalist, I'm gonna sound crazy. To a traditionalist, I'm gonna sound like, oh, you know, he does not do this with Ifa for. You don't understand. I've done it before. I've done it several times where I get the Ifa reading and I go home and I clean myself and I take care of myself because I know where the negative forces are coming from. You see? And all of the extra work and rituals to do the Ebo and all that, it's much more easier for me to just go home and clean off with a rooster or something else and wipe away the negative energy in 2 minutes versus me spending an afternoon making an Ebo to 4 or 5 Orishas. Not to say that making an Ebo to 4 or 5 Orishas is not always necessary, because it is. I'm just saying in instances where we're talking about black magic and witchcraft. A lot of times when we are talking about black magic and witchcraft, we are talking about traditions such as Palo Mayombe. We are talking about traditions of Kimbanda. We are talking about traditions. We are talking about traditions that deal with black magic specifically. Okay? So usually when you see that this person's doing witchcraft on you, that person's doing witchcraft on you, usually it's not from the Ifa tradition. Unless that person has went to the Iami and they prayed to the Iami, in which you go to the Iami, from my understanding, you don't even speak the person's or the enemy's name when you go to the Iami. You just give the offering and ask the Iami to handle, take care of your enemies and the negative forces around you and so forth. So you don't really go and do a lot of talking in regards to who your enemies are and stuff like that. A lot of times with most of the Orishas, you won't go in front of the Orisha and say the person's name. You just ask the Orisha to give you victory over your enemies, and whoever steps up to be an enemy probably will deal with some negative energy coming from that Orisha that you just made offerings or made a bow to. In the realm of Palo and Kimbanda and traditions that are similar, you will be very specific about who it is and what it is that you want to target. So let's say, for instance, a person comes to me for an Idafa, somebody comes to me for an Ifa reading. And in that Ifa reading, in the Odu or Orisha reading, Erendilogun, in that reading, the Orisha may speak about witchcraft being thrown at that person, right? And what I would do is I will go and I will ask Ifa or ask the Orisha, if I go and clean this person in front of this spirit, in a whole nother tradition, I may say, if I go clean this person in front of Eshu so-and-so, will the Odu close? Will the Odu close if I go and clean this person in front of this specific Eshu to wipe away any Ajagun or negative forces that are coming at this person? If I clean this person in front of this Nganga, will the Iku be removed? And Ifa or Orisha say yes, I don't even mark the Ebo. There's no need to mark the Ebo. You know what I mean? You can, but I'm just telling you from a black magician perspective. We're not talking from traditional priest perspective. We're not talking from that perspective. So, like I said, the things that I'm saying in this video, some of y'all may think, oh, he's crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about, blah, blah, blah. But 9 times out of 10, I've been doing this longer than most of y'all that would even say that. So, yeah, I only deal with what works. There's no disrespect to what other people do. I'm just dealing with what works, and I'm telling you why it's beneficial to deal with somebody like that, because you could save yourself money. You could save yourself time. You know what I mean? And grief and worry. It's like when I want to do when I want to sit down and do videos, man. Y'all don't understand. My my phone just be blowing up. But yeah, so I just really wanted to give y'all a. If y'all have any questions about what I'm talking about, go ahead and comment in the videos. Make sure you share and like the video, please. But yeah, just think about what I'm talking about. Like a lot of times I've gotten my own idafa done, and even though I did the ebo maybe a couple of days later after getting the idafa, I still went home and removed all of the negative forces before I even did the idafa. Before I even did the ebo. I went home and removed it all before that. By the time I went to go make the ebo, I was just making ebo, just be making the ebo, just for like to be sure. But I had already known that all the stuff that came up in the reading, I had went home and I cleared it up with a whole nother tradition. I went home and cleared it up with Palo, or I went home and cleared it up with Kimbanda. I didn't have to really make the ebo, but I did make the ebo just to make sure it was all done, make sure it was all cleaned up. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like I didn't have to. I knew I didn't have to, but I just did it out of respect for the Orishas and out of respect for Ifa that I went and did the ebo anyway. You know what I mean? But I'm just telling you that you need to work with an Babalawo who understands that witchcraft comes from different religions, different traditions. You know what I mean? And that there are other ways to deal with witchcraft other than just making ebo. That's the point of this entire video. There's other ways to deal with witchcraft other than just making ebo. You know what I mean? We have all who have experienced Ifa know the process that goes with making ebo. It is very long in consideration of other rituals that could remove negative energy very quickly without having to go through an entire process of feeding many orishas and things of that nature. And there's nothing wrong with feeding the orishas. Don't get me wrong. I love feeding the orishas. I love working with the orishas. I love making ebo. I'm actually about to make ebo very soon. Just because I feel it's time. But for the most part, you know, the information that comes in the Odu about what's going on around you is the most important. And if you are working as a magician and not just a priest, then you know how to handle that information and take care of that information in various different ways. You can do the ebo. You can go to an nganga. You can do this. You could do that depending upon what it is that you have going on. Now, if it's an issue that is specifically with Ifa, specifically with Orumila, then you go to Orumila. Ain't nowhere else you can go. You got to go to Orumila, right? But if somebody throwing some shit at your love life and they say, oh, Oshun wants you to give offerings to protect your marriage. And then if you also a magician and you go and throw your, let's say you're a palero and you throw chamalongo. And you go ask, oh, is somebody working Mama Chola Wenge on me and my relationship? Is somebody throwing Mama Chola Wenge at my relationship? And they say yes. Then you just go to Mama Chola. If you can. If you have that nganga, or if you know anybody that has the nganga that you can work with, you just go to Mama Chola and you clean it off. You may not even have to make the ebo to Oshun per se, but you can go and give, or you can give offerings to both. Give offerings to Oshun and go clean it off with Chola. But if you know the source of the black magic is coming from Chola, and Chola is the earthbound version of Oshun, same type of energy, one exists on earth, one exists in the heavens, then you just simply go and deal with it at the source, which is with Chola. And clean it off with Chola. You just go take a hen or a rooster or something and clean off in front of Chola. Boom. No need to make ebo now. Now, if you want to be extra and you want to go and make the ebo, by all means, go make the ebo. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying not to make the ebo. I'm just saying there are sometimes in some cases where you don't have to make the ebo. If it's a rumula, you do have to make the ebo. Anytime. Because although there's no spirit, so I've heard of a spirit that's similar to Orumila and Palo. But I don't know nobody who got it. Right? And So I know that if Rumila says, "Oh, you got to give offerings to Ifa," you got to give offerings to Rumila. You got to give offerings to Ifa. There's no getting around that, right? If you got to get offerings to Ori, right? There's no other spirit and no other tradition that is like Ori. So if you need to feed your Ori, then you go to Ori and you feed your Ori. Simple as that. You know what I mean? If you have to feed Egun, you got to feed Egun. If you got to give offerings to Egungun, you got to give offerings to Egungun. You know what I mean? Because Egungun is Egungun. You know, wherever you go in any tradition, there's Egun there present. Somebody's worshiping Egun in some type of way. You know what I mean? In Palo, they worship Egun. You know, the Bakulu. In Ifao, they worship Egungun. And Kimbanda, they worship Preto Velho. You know, so you have these, in every tradition, everybody has a concept of Egun. So if you need to give offerings to Egun, you give offerings to Egun. You know what I mean? There's no getting around it. Some of these things, there's no getting around. You know what I mean? There's no getting around. If you need to make offerings to Ajay, or you need to make offerings to Egbe, then those are orishas that, regardless of whatever witchcraft is going on around you, you have to give offerings to those energies, because those energies only exist right there in that tradition. Okay? And there's no other tradition that I've ever researched where there is a concept of Egbe. Right? The only concept of Egbe that I've ever known about exists in Ifa tradition. So if it come up in Ifa that you give offerings to Egbe, then there's no getting around it. You give the Ebo to Egbe. Right? You give the Ebo to Ori. You give the Ebo to Orumila, because you can't go anywhere else to make offerings to those particular orishas. Right? Now, if you ask Ifa while you're doing your Idafa, and they say, oh, you have to get offerings to Oshun, and then you say, well, you know, if you're dealing with a Babalawo who is also a black magician, then he will understand who Mama Chola is. If you go to one of our Nigerian brothers who are not familiar, because there's a disconnect between the Caribbean aspects of spiritualism and the African traditional aspects of spiritualism, and you say, well, you know, Baba, I was dealing with this Palero. What? Who? This guy, he practices a tradition called Palo Mayombe. I was working with him, and blah, blah, blah. We got into it, and, you know, it could be Mama Chola. Mama what? Who? Mama who? That's how they're going to look, because they don't know that. They don't know what that is. Now, you come to me, and you come to somebody like me, and we doing an Idafa, and you're like, man, you got to get officers of Oshun. Somebody attacking your love life. If I said somebody attacking your love life, they are doing witchcraft at your love life. You know what I'm saying? Oshun says that you need to get offerings. If I says that you need to get offerings to Oshun to make sure that your love life and your marriage go strong. And then I'm going to check, because I know, I'm saying, let me go over here right quick and see. Boom. It's Chola. Somebody working Palo on you. You know what I mean? Now, we can go ahead and get an offering to Oshun, or we can just go straight to Chola and just go ahead and deal with Chola, which is a little faster. Because you could just go in front of Chola and clean up. You can even go in front of Oshun and clean up. But that's something else that most people don't know you could do. But you can just go in front of Chola and clean off, and, you know, and it's a done deal. And you could just put it behind you. Even Shango. Shango, somebody might say, oh, you know, Shango wants to fight your enemies, blah, blah, blah. Now, there is a syncretic spirit known as Setirayo or Ensasi in Palo Mayombe that has the same characteristics as Kabiyesi, Shango. So if somebody is throwing Setirayo and Ensasi to attack you, and Shango wants offerings, then you may be able to just go to Setirayo and Ensasi if you have access to that. If you don't have access to that, and you're just an Ifa initiate or an Ifa practitioner or devotee, then you need to go to a Babalawo who has Kabiyesi Shango, and you make offerings to Kabiyesi Shango. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to tell people that you don't need to make a bow. That's not what I'm saying. Don't miss the point. what I'm saying is that when you are working with someone who is diverse, and not only Ifa, but also other traditions that are known for being black magic traditions, and that person understands how those traditions work, you may be able to save yourself time, energy, and money if you know how to clean off, diagnose, and clean off, right? In those other traditions as well. And for some people, it just may be easier to just make the ebo. Just get the reading, make the ebo. Boom, be done with it. You know what I mean? But what happens when you come across an enemy in those other traditions? Because this is what I'm going to tell y'all before I end this video, because I went over the video 10 minutes. But this is what I'm going to tell y'all before I end this video. You could go get an Ifa reading. Make ebo the same way. I mean, the same day. Go get an Ifa reading, make ebo the same day. And before you're done making ebo, first of all, a person like myself could have already been blocking your ebo, especially if I know that you're in Ifa. Then I'm going to make it really hard for you to make ebo. I'm going to do things that are going to make it so that the Orisha do not get your offerings or your prayers, things of that nature. Like, you got to be careful about stuff. There's people out here that know how to do these type of things. Okay? So that's number one. Then number two, even if you try to say, whoever tries to block this offering, may they take it to Oludumare themselves. We have ways to make sure that don't work. Even when you speak it out of your mouth, it won't work. Like, it's so many things that you could do from the black magic perspective, from the traditions of Palo and Kimbanda and stuff like that, that if you're dealing with an enemy like that, just a basic ebo is not going to work. Just going to make ebo is that getting Idafa and making ebo will probably just keep you alive, but you're going to still be having problems in your life if you're dealing with a person like me and other people that I know who can do things to you right after you make ebo. As soon as you make ebo, boom. You know what I'm saying? We hit you again. Boom. Now you're running back to make another ebo. You're making another ebo. Now you're trying to get mad at Ifa because you're trying to figure out, well, why am I making all these ebos and my life not changing? Why am I making all these ebos and nothing is happening? Why am I making? Because you got a real sorcerer on your ass. And once that happens, then you got to go to a Babalawo who also knows black magic, a left-hand path Babalawo. And that's what I meant when I said left-hand path Babalawo, as a Babalawo who knows black magic. Not just Ifa medicine and things of that nature, but knows the different various traditions of black magic and can identify those things for you so that they can attack it from a different perspective, from a different approach, versus just saying, oh, we will make offerings, we will give offerings, everything will be okay. Did you even check to see if my roads were open to give offerings to Oya? I'm dealing with a black magician. This person could have done things to close my roads to even work with the Orisha. I remember I had somebody tell me, you cannot block Ifa. And I said, how can you not block Ifa? And Eshu rules the crossroads. If everything got to go to Eshu before anybody can move or do anything, then all a person technically got to do is go to Eshu. I mean, there's other ways to do it, but if a person wanted to do it on a basic level, all they had to do was go to Eshu and say, Eshu, block Arumila, block Ifa from protecting this person. Block Ifa from blessing this person. Block Ifa from hearing this person's prayers. Block Ifa from this. Block Ifa from doing that. And Eshu can do it because he's Eshu. So that was ignorant for that person to tell me that Ifa cannot be blocked when Eshu can block anything, anywhere, at any time. But when you think like a magician, you see that. When you think like a priest, a worshiper, you say, oh, nothing can stop Irumila. Not saying that Irumila is not Irumila, but I'm just saying Irumila can definitely be held back from helping you when you're dealing with a black magician. And a black magician know that you're an Ifa, know that you practice this, know that you practice. So you have to be very careful. You have to be very aware, and you have to be very thorough. Right? You have to check. If you know your client is in a spiritual war, then you need to check and see what type of spiritual war this person is in. What type of spiritualist is attacking your client. Become familiar with the different traditions. You don't have to master them and get initiated in them. Just become familiar with them. You know what I mean? Make friends with people in those traditions so that you can send your client to one of those people in the event thereof. If you truly about helping them and you're not just trying to make money off of them. You know what I mean? Because anytime if a person got a Lukumi problem, then I send them to Lukumi people. Dead ass. I don't try to think like, just come to a Shay, we can fix it. No, if you got a Lukumi problem, then they can better understand your problem because they're coming from the perspective and the understanding of Lukumi. So they can understand your problem better. So I'd rather you go to a Lukumi person and let them give you their solutions based on the tradition in which you're having issues with versus me trying to understand Lukumi from an Isheshe perspective and work with what you're dealing with from an Isheshe perspective, and you don't get the help that you need because we missed the mark, right? You can always cast Ifa, ask Ifa divination again, cast Ifa divination again, and get another Odu and do Ebo and all that in Isheshe, even if you do have a Lukumi problem. You know what I mean? But people in Lukumi work the Orishas a little differently than people in Isheshe. Okay? So that's really what I wanted to talk about. I hope I didn't offend nobody. If I did, oh well. But that's my truth. That's how I see things. That's how I've experienced things in the spiritual realm. We can definitely discuss this more. There can definitely be a part 2 to this because I would love to talk to people about their experiences dealing with the different traditions and so forth and like get a better understanding of what they've experienced. But yeah, be careful with people who are just focused on one tradition because they're going to limit your perception of what could be happening to you. Because I'm a priest and a practitioner of multiple traditions, which are basically the 3 main traditions or 3 to 4 main traditions here in America. Ifa and Orisha, Palo Mayombe, Kimbanda, Voodoo. Those are the 4 main traditions that dominate the ATR community for the most part. So I tend to have a different perspective, and I tend to see things with a broader view, and I'm not biased or I'm not biased to just one tradition. Like I'm able to see the connecting thread that brings all these traditions together and be able to see how one can work with this one works with that one has its purpose here, this one has its purpose there. If I need to go to this one for this one, I go to that one for that one so I can get my destiny read. And once I know my destiny, then I know that I can go here to fulfill that part of my destiny, boom, boom, boom. Because most people be like, oh, it's my destiny. But what if it's a person's destiny to be the devil? What if it is a person's destiny to be a warlock, to be a sorcerer? Ifa will help that person to be a very good warlock, a very good sorcerer. Ifa's not saying, oh, because you came to me, now you got to become a Babalawo. That's a part of the business of Ifa that they push in the diaspora. Ifa's job and only job is to oversee your destiny. His job is not to tell you that your destiny is to always be a Babalawo. Everybody's destiny is not to be a Babalawo just because they practice Ifa. And that's what people need to understand. Some people destiny may be to be in voodoo. Some people destiny may be to be in Palo. Some people destiny may be to be in Kimbanda. Some people destiny may be to only work with their ancestors. You see? Just because you go to Ifa for divination don't mean you're supposed to become a Babalawo. True indeed, you can get the hand of Ifa and get the first layer of protection from Ifa or Rumela, but it still don't mean that you're supposed to become a priest or priestess of Ifa just because you go to Ifa. Everybody has their own destiny. And everybody's destiny ain't going to always be, it ain't going to always come out in the Odu that your destiny, oh shit, it may say in the Odu, this person is going to die young. He must make Ebo so that he does not die young. That's when you feel me? Like everybody, people be thinking that people turn Ifa into Christianity, and I'm not the one. Like, you're not finna turn Ifa into Christianity on me and try to make me feel bad because I don't see things like a religious fanatic or some shit. Like, no, I'm not finna do that. We not doing that. So, as long as I have a voice, I will continue to share the wisdom that I see from practicing these multiple traditions and give y'all an understanding of why it's important to try to deal with someone who is a diverse individual when it comes to spiritualism, who is diverse. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Please like and share and subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please share it. You know what I mean? Pretty sure Facebook is a real weird group of people, but they'll probably be talking shit, you know, but who gives a fuck? Those who have an ear, let them hear what the priest says to the people. I'll see y'all on the next video. Sarava.